When you think about a successful company, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably its profits, right? Or maybe its stock price. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't tell you what's actually happening on the inside, what makes that company tick, or, what hidden problems might be lurking just under the surface.
So that's the real question we need to ask. To understand what makes a business truly solid, we've got to look under the hood. It's kind of like a doctor giving a patient a full health checkup, or even taking an x ray to see the internal structure, the bones, the things that give it real strength, or expose its deepest vulnerabilities. And at the very core of any company, you'll find what experts often call the 5M resources. These are the absolute fundamentals. You've got the materials it uses, the machines it runs, its manpower, that's its people, of course, the money it has in the bank, and the management methods that pull everything together. How well a company juggles these 5Ms, that's what really determines its internal health.
But okay, just knowing about the 5Ms isn't enough. I mean, how do you actually measure them? How can you tell what's working and what's not, and what really truly matters? What we need is a tool, a systematic way to diagnose the company's internal health without just, guessing.
And that is exactly what we're going to tackle today. We'll start with what internal health really means for business. Then I'll introduce you to an awesome tool called the IFE Matrix. We'll actually build one step by step, figure out what that final score means, and then, the most important part, see how you turn that score into a real strategy. All right, let's dive right in. The tool we're going to be using is the Internal Factor Evaluation Matrix, or much easier to say, the IFE Matrix. Just think of it as our high-tech diagnostic tool for business. So what is this thing really? At its heart, the IFE Matrix is a framework for sizing up a company's biggest internal strengths and weaknesses. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask the tough questions. What are we great at? Where are we falling short? And crucially, how much does any of it actually matter to our success? Okay, now this is the part that trips a lot of people up, so let's nail it down. The whole matrix balances on two key ideas: weights and ratings. Get this right, and you're golden. Weights are all about the industry. You're asking, how important is this factor for any company trying to win in this business? All your weights have to add up to exactly 1.0. Ratings, on the other hand, are totally company specific. Here you ask, okay, how well are we specifically doing on this factor? And you score that from 1 to 4. Theory is one thing, but let's get our hands dirty and see how this actually works. We are going to build an IFE matrix from the ground up for a company I think we all know pretty well, the home improvement giant Lowe's. This will give us a real, tangible look at its internal health. And don't worry, the process is super straightforward. It's just 5 simple steps. First, we list out the key internal factors, the good and the bad. Then we assign those weights and readings we just talked about. After that, it's just a little bit of quick math to get the weighted scores, and finally, we add them all up for the grand total. Step 1 is basically a big brainstorming session. We're hunting for the most significant internal factors for Lowe's right now. And you want to be specific. Use numbers if you can. So for strengths, we've got things like the huge 121% growth of their website and their new contactless pickup lockers. For weaknesses, you see stuff like their sales being stuck in North America and a predicted sales drop after the pandemic boom. All right, step 2, assigning weights. Remember, this is about the industry, not just Lowe's. So check this out. The weakness, sales limited to North America, gets a really high weight of 0.14. Why? Because in the global home improvement and retail industry, having a global footprint is a massive deal. On the flip side, corporate locations empty gets a tiny weight of 0.03. I mean, it's an issue, but it's way less critical to overall success in this sector. And you can see at the bottom, they all add up perfectly to 1.0, just like they should. Now for the ratings. This is where we put on our judge's hat and score Lowe's specifically. The rule of thumb is simple. Strengths get a 3 if they're minor, or a 4 if they're major. Weaknesses get a 2 for minor, or a 1 for major. So last quarter sales increased 27%. That's a huge win. That's a major strength, so it gets a 4. But sales expected to decline 15% post-COVID. That's a major threat, a big weakness, so it gets a 1. And now for the big finish. We just multiply the weight by the rating for every single factor. That gives us the weighted score, which really shows the true impact of each item. Then, for the grand finale, we just add up that whole last column. And after all that analysis, we've boiled it down to one single powerful number for Lowe's: 2.67. So we have our number, but a number all by itself, well, it's pretty useless, isn't it? what does 2.67 actually tell us about the real internal health of Lowe's?
2.67. Let's just let that sink in for a second. Is that a bid score? A bad one? Is it just average? To understand what it means, we need a benchmark. We need something to compare it to. And here it is. Here's the key to the whole thing. The magic number is 2.5. Think of it as the 50-yard line. A total score of 2.5 is perfectly average. Anything below that line suggests the company is internally weak. Anything above it suggests it's internally strong. So, with its score of 2.67, our diagnosis for Lowe's is in. And it's pretty clear. The company has a strong overall internal position. This means that when you weigh all the pros and cons, Lowe's is doing a better than average job of playing to its strengths and handling its weaknesses. But listen, getting a score isn't the finish line. Not even close. The real power, the whole point of the IFE Matrix, is what you do next. It's all about turning this amazing insight into concrete action. The Matrix gives you incredible strategic insight. It helps you prioritize. Which weaknesses are fires you need to put out right now? Which strengths are superpowers you can use to grow even faster? It helps you decide where to put your money and your people. And it takes the guesswork out of big decisions. Plus, you can do it again in a year and see if you've improved. When you boil it all down, the entire exercise is about getting better, constantly. The strategic goal here is simple. Come up with plans to turn your biggest weaknesses into strengths, and then use your most powerful strengths to go out and grab new opportunities. That right there is how you win. So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. The next time you're thinking about your favorite brand, whether it's Apple or Tesla or even that little coffee shop down the street, ask yourself, what hidden strengths and weaknesses would an IFE matrix reveal about them? What's really going on under the hood? It's a pretty cool new lens to see the world of business through.